Let's get this started. Hold on. Let me click it here. Dave, you want to go ahead and clap that one at your camera over here? Beautiful. Go ahead. Hit that intro. Hello and welcome to Recovering Addicts Livestream, coming to you from the heart of Utah. We are RA and we are a nonprofit standing together shoulder to shoulder with those fighting the toughest battles of our lives. The battle against addiction. We are a relapse prevention center. We are long-term and we are totally free. Pew, pew, pew. Locally, we gather every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 6 to 8 at the Iron House Gym located at 155 14th Street in Ogden, Utah. The first hour, we dedicate it to our bodies. We strengthen our physical resilience as we work out together. In the last hour, we unite our minds and our spirits, sharing and supporting each other in our group therapy sessions. We are a therapeutic community, and the best thing of all is we are absolutely free. You can join today, and you can stay as long as you want. But this stream is for those who can't be here with us physically, but share our dedication to breaking free from the chains of addiction. It's for everyone looking for a beacon of hope, support, and connection in their journey towards long-term sobriety. Remember, this isn't just a live stream, it's a lifeline. And we are here to help you every step of the way. And our motto is, we recover better together. So take a deep breath, ready your hearts and minds, because together we're not just surviving, we're thriving. Welcome to Recovering Addicts live stream. So let's embark on this journey of healing and empowerment together. I'm LT, your host. 2 years, 2 times in my life, actually not 2 years, 2 times in my life, I hit rock bottom. Early 2000s, meth addiction, got a felony, went to jail for a year, 4 months in a halfway house, that kind of crap. Later in life, I got scared straight is what I like to say. And I became a raging alcoholic. Can you turn my headphones down just a titch? Headphones, thanks. And the most destructive alcoholic of its kind, right? Remodel in my house, which means I did a lot of demo. And I did more demo in my marriage and relationship with my family than I did anything. Had to check into rehab at age 40 and did 6 months in an intense outpatient rehab. And thank God I had an old school therapist who told me the truth. The truth you don't want to hear. The truth you need to hear.
Critical.
If I didn't have him in my life at the point where my shell had a crack in it so that he could split it further open with that chisel, I wouldn't be here today, I don't believe. And I don't believe that we would be married either. But today's a special podcast. One of my mentors, a man that I highly respect and admire, who I aim to be and strive to be like in my life, in the way that he runs his life, his business, his relationship with his wife. I'm trying not to tear up on this one now. But I really admire and love this man and have learned a lot. And a lot of this stuff, if you come to my local program, you'll see the way that it's ran and the groups and the way that we do our groups is because of what I've learned from him and Clay and the Other Side Academy. So you want to introduce yourself? This camera here? This camera there?
I'm Dave Durocher, Executive Director with the Other Side Academy. And LT, thank you for that intro. From the day that we met, not to get mushy, every once in a while you meet people and you know it's a bromance from day one.
Yeah.
I knew immediately that you were a good human being and I wanted you to be in my life, and I'm fortunate that we have become friends over the time that we've known each other, and I feel very honored and very blessed, not just to have you in my life, but to be here in your home doing this podcast today.
Thank you. Likewise. Can't say any more than that. That's exactly the way that I feel. So,
Do you want to kiss me now or later?
If we get up to 30 likes, I will go over there and I'll give Dave a kiss. How's that? Deal. If we get 50 likes, it'll be on the cheek. If I get 100 likes, it'll be on the lips.
I should be careful what I ask for.
The audience will decide. So let us know you're here, everybody. If you have any questions, nothing's off the table. We're here to talk about true honesty. We're here to have a conversation. But most of all, we want to know about Dave. We hear and see Dave a lot on your TED Talks. We see you give tons of speeches. But I kind of want to go back to the beginning. Like, where are you from? Like, what was your childhood like as a kid? And let us know about you.
You know, I was born in California. I was born in Anaheim, California. And, Yeah, I was born in Anaheim, California, and I was raised in Cerritos, right? Cerritos is a small city, just about as far east in Los Angeles County as you can get. It bordered Orange County. And my mom and dad are still married today, 60 years of marriage.
Wow.
I often say, in spite of my best efforts to destroy that marriage on more times than I could probably count. I didn't realize it then like I do now as I look back, just what I put them through. But Dad worked in aerospace. Mom worked in aerospace. I was raised in an upper middle class home.
You
right?
say aerospace, like
My dad worked at Hughes Helicopters in Marina Del Rey. He worked on the Apache helicopter.
Very
He was
cool.
an engineer.
Yeah.
Mom worked in Fullerton at Hughes Ground Systems Group. Eventually, I worked there for a very short period of time, but it was very, very short because I blew that job. But they both had good jobs. I have an older sister and I have a younger brother. But I think what happened with me at an early age was, for those who are old enough to understand or remember who Dennis the Menace was, I was Dennis the Menace on steroids. There were times that I remember being 5 or 6 years old and Christmas time, and the postman was going around delivering mail, a week or two before Christmas, and I'd follow behind him and I'd steal the mail out of the mailboxes at that age because I knew there'd probably be cash in those envelopes. So there were times that the neighbors would leave and I'd go jump over their fence and I'd go into their house and just ransack their house. I was literally a little hellion on wheels.
How old were you about this time?
5, 6, 7.
That's crazy.
I was starting fires in my bedroom, right, in the trash can. This is no exaggeration. I was in prison before I ever became an adult. I would be on restriction for weeks, if not months on end, locked in my room because my parents didn't know what to do with me. There were times that I think the earliest that I got caught stealing from my parents, I couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 years old. I had stolen some change from my mom. She realized it was gone. And she called me in the living room and she says, "Dave, did you take that money?" And I go, "No." She said, "Empty your pockets." And I emptied my pockets and I was so proud of myself, right? And there was nothing there. She said, "Take your shoes off." And there it was. I don't know how it got there, but the money was in my shoes, right?
Yeah.
So I was a little thief at a young age. I still don't understand why that was happening at such a young age, but it was.
I had the same thing when I was young.
Yeah.
My mom tells a story of me when I'm like 3 or 4, and I looked at her in the eye, and I'm like, when I get older, I'm smoking cigarettes and I'm drinking beer.
Yeah.
And I did the same hellion type Dennis the Menace stuff
Yeah.
as a child, all the way up until my first charge was at 12 for vandalism, breaking windows. And I wouldn't have been the one in trouble had I not had I kept my mouth shut. But the cop looks at me. He goes, "What does LT stand for?" I said, "You're a detective. Figure it out."
That sounds like stuff I did as I got older.
Yeah.
My dad rode motorcycles, dirt bikes, right? That's how I learned to ride. And I remember in the 70s, right? I was born in 66, but I remember in the early 70s, and as the years dragged on, but particularly in the 70s, my dad would have his friends over to the house, the first house we had in Cerritos. And they'd come over, and he had a pool table in the front room. And, back then, everybody smoked and drank Budweiser. And I remember running to the refrigerator and grabbing the beer, and I'd bring it to one of his friends. And, I'd pop the can, and I'd take the first drink. And at the end of that soiree, I'd be picking the cans up, and I'd take the last drink. It started at a really young age. It wasn't looked at back then the way it is now, right? We know that's wrong. And that really is where it started. I learned to drink at home. Now, my parents didn't sit me down and go, "Here's how you drink."
Sure.
I was just picking up on it. I've always been very perceptive, right?
Yeah.
And I just kind of started down that path. It was crazy. I was just a little Dennis the Menace, just constantly getting in trouble, constantly. I remember, and I don't tell this story too often, right? Me, my sister, and some friends, we were walking out of our track, and we were going to McDonald's at Magnolia and South Street. And when cars come around the corner all the time, and they're just making that right-hand turn, all the rocks and the pebbles kind of get pushed over that little section. Well, there was a watch in the street. It's just right, had been smashed, so it was just a metal disc. And I remember picking that up, and there was a girl clear across the street with a McDonald's bag in her hand, right? And I said, "Watch this, you guys." And I took that watch and I threw it at her. What are the odds that it would even get close? Hit her right square in the forehead.
Oh.
The bag of McDonald's went everywhere. She starts screaming. We all run home. Of course, it didn't take long before the parents were at the door. But that's the kind of kid I was. What are the odds? But why would I even do that?
Right.
I would take eggs out of my parents' carton in their kitchen, and I'd go outside and I'd just throw them as far as I could over the house, right, and see if I could hear them, land someplace. I was just that kind of kid. But because of that, my dad in particular did not know how to, I don't know that there is a how, right? There was some verbal abuse, right? There was some physical abuse. When I say abuse, I mean, I was getting the belt. I was getting the hand. I was getting a lot of yelling, right? But I don't know how I would have handled me at that age either. There's not like this parenting manual that you open up and on chapter 6 it says when Dave does this, hey, this is what you do.
The discipline wasn't working that you were receiving.
Yeah,
And it sounded like good, solid discipline.
Yeah, it wasn't working. And I think that's the home I'm growing up in, so that's the norm. I don't know any different. But as the years go on, right, at about age 11, I think, or 12, I was coming home from school and I was stealing booze out of my dad's alcohol bottle, and I'd replace it with water because there's no way he's going to find out then, right? And it didn't take long before he'd come home from work and have a drink, and he realized he wasn't getting the desired effect he was looking for, and then he realized I was. That conversation didn't go well either. And that really is when it started. And then I was smoking pot at 12, and then at 13 I did my first line of cocaine.
Oh, wow.
Dad, baseball was my love. I'll digress. I love the game of baseball. And my dad was my coach for a couple years, and we won the championship, the Cerritos championship. And I remember, I'll never forget, we're in the championship game. It's the last inning. I'm on base. Guy gets a hit. I'm coming around third. I slide into home plate. Safe. And I remember Dad was right there and looking up at him, and just that, you know what I mean? I felt so proud to have scored the winning run. That's what my dad meant to me. Yeah. So on one hand, he was always the father that I needed and wanted. But on the other hand, I was just this little hellion. And I think over the years, I started to believe some of the verbal stuff he was saying, right? Not because he was being mean, not because he was being nasty. That's how he felt at the time, because that's who I was being. So yeah. I don't want to make excuses, but I also want to, understand that I don't know how else he could have dealt with me.
Right.
So anyway.
So I know that later in life, we're going to get through your story a little bit, but you become, 20 years in prison kind of guy. How's your relationship with your parents today?
My mom and dad are my best friends.
Awesome.
They're not mommy and daddy anymore.
Sure.
I risked their lives more times than you could count. I got so deep into the lifestyle of dealing drugs, running guns, sending cash home, right? And I won't get into the weeds of what that looked like, but then I would call home to see if they counted the money. I'd send my little brother home. I basically was asking my parents to launder my dope money, and they did. I'd be in jail, right, fighting my cases, and we'd have to invest some of that money, right? Again, I don't want to get into too deep into the weeds, but I pulled my parents into my lifestyle, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think they realized what I was doing. I don't think I realized what I was doing. But when you're a drug addict, you don't care. Mm-mm. You do whatever you got to do to get what you want, right? You go to any means you have to. So today, my mom and dad live in Palm Springs, California, and we are closer than we've ever been in a healthy way. They enabled the hell out of me. I'd come home from prison on a number of occasions, and they'd let me live at home. Of course, I promised them I wouldn't use, and I knew better than that.
Sure.
They did what they felt was best, and they were trying to help. They really were. I just wasn't, willing to accept the help then. They would drive all over the state of California to visit me in prison. Susanville, Jamestown, Wasco, CRC, fire camp, wherever I was at. They would drive there to visit me. They would drive for weekends. And there was a time that I know they came to see me, and I got in a fight the day before, and I was in the hole, and they drove all the way up there for nothing. I didn't really care to see them. They're coming to see me. They're bringing money. We're going to eat some good food out of the vending machines. And at the end of that visit, I'm going to tell them how much I love them. Don't forget to put that money on my books.
Yeah.
Don't forget to send my quarterly package. And really all I wanted was Durocher, last 286. You have a visit. I get to walk across the yard to visiting like I'm that guy. I didn't see it like that then, but I do now. Yeah. Just how much I used them. Mm-hmm. What a rotten SOB I'd become. Nobody in their right mind should have their parents driving them to see them in prison when the decisions they're making are putting them in prison. They never should have came visit me. How do I ask them to drive across the state of California to visit me? They could get in a head-on collision and die.
Yeah.
Just so I can, Durocher, last 286 visit. If I really cared about them, I wouldn't be going to prison.
Yep.
And then when I get out, if I really cared about them, I wouldn't be going back. I didn't know how to care about them. I didn't know how to care about anybody.
Did you ever, go ahead. Did you want to finish that thought?
So, to answer your question, I'm very lucky and I'm very fortunate to have my mom and dad in my life. They should have cut me off a long, long time ago.
We obviously practice amends, right? Making amends with people. And after I quit drinking with my stint, I waited exactly a year to even tell Felice I'm sorry. I wanted to live a life of you know how many times we've said sorry in our life.
Yep.
I wanted to actually prove it with my lifestyle before I repeated my bullcrap behavior again. Did you have a sit down moment with your mom and dad where you had like, look, you guys, I apologize for all this, and how did that go?
It's funny, but we haven't.
Mm.
When I got, after my 4 prison terms, when I got to Delancey Street, which is the organization in California that, we'll probably get to this part of the story, that I wrote and a judge finally let me go and he suspended a 22-year prison sentence over my head. I would write my parents and I would tell them in my letters that I apologized, right, for, but here I'm at Delancey Street, I'm really doing good. And it took them a couple years before they let me go home to visit them.
Mm.
And even then, right, I think they were skeptical, like, is this real? Has he really changed? And then they started to come see me at Delancey Street, and they would come to Parents' Day, and then they saw that I stayed longer than I had to. I could have graduated at 2 years. I was in my 3rd year, my 4th year, my 5th year, and I think they started to believe that Dave had started the change process and was not going to go back to that lifestyle. And I'll tell you this, I've never had to sit down and apologize to them. I've said I'm sorry to them 10,000 times. I didn't mean it once.
Yeah.
The best apology you can give anybody is changed behavior.
Amen.
Once I changed, we've never sat down and went, okay, you go ahead and tell me how you feel about me, and I'm going to tell you how. We've never done that,
Yeah.
nor do we need to.
No, I agreed.
Change behavior.
When I did say sorry to her, it wasn't sit down and emotional. I was just like, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope this year has proved it to you.
Yeah.
And every year since I've tried to, we always talk about in our group, and I say this almost at every podcast I have, but my best gift to you, Dave, is my self-development.
Mm.
If I'm working on myself and I'm taking, like you guys saw my chair upstairs, right, where I read,
Yeah.
that is me being selfish, taking an hour and a half every morning for my sake and God, and so that when I walk out the door and I meet you, I am in the best mental state that I can be, the most productive state I can be, the most, sense of urgency. How can I help you to serve? And I get all that right every single morning first, and that's the best gift I can give you, is that selfish time.
Yep.
Alone.
Yep. Yeah, the better person you become, that's how you show up with those who you care about.
How do you take care of yourself? You're a busy man. You have a lot of people, hundreds of people at the Other Side Academy taking care of you. How do you take care of yourself?
I get up every morning at 3:45, much to my wife's chagrin sometimes. And I go across.
She's right
the
over
street.
there
Yeah,
too, by the way.
She's got that look on her face like, damn right. I go across the street to my office, and I have a cup of coffee. And I have a couple of books, and I normally read a couple of, a chapter or two, or a page or two. It's kind of a self-help thing.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine sent me a couple of them. But the most important thing is I go over there and I start planning out my day and writing down all the things I need to do for that day, right? Start writing them down so I don't forget anything. Then I go to the gym, and I'm usually in the gym for about an hour and a half, and that really is my time. Prior to going to the gym, I used to run 4 or 5 miles, at Liberty Park, right, get my mileage in. But those morning times are the time for me to reflect and to get my head straight and prepare myself for the day.
That's awesome.
The other part is I don't have a normal job. I get to live in a community of people just like me. The only difference is I'm farther removed. So every day is a very fulfilling, very satisfying, very cathartic day, right? Because when you get to help people, when you choose to help people, it is the balm for our wounds, right? It helps me get through my own personal stuff sometimes when I get out of myself and into somebody else. And if you've never done that, if you've never really practiced that day in and day out, it's hard for me to articulate just what that does for the soul. It's incredible.
Yeah. So you do take that moment for yourself before the day's chaos kicks off, and then health. I'm here. You know how big I'm into working out and stuff, and then take care of your workout, and then you go back on your day. So let's go back to your childhood a little bit. You're a hellion. Now you're getting into your teenage years. Your first line of cocaine's at 13. You're Dennis and Menace on steroids. When is the first time you land in prison?
I'll go back to the first line of cocaine at 13, right? All the way through high school, stealing from my habit, getting into dad's safe, getting his safe combination, stealing thousands of dollars, go all the way through high school, doing it every day, taking a little vial of cocaine with me and, doing coke in class, pouring it between the pages. It was that bad. I went to prison, I think, the first time when I was 20 or 21 years old. 21 years old, I think, right?
Yeah.
And my first prison term was a 2-year term. So I go to prison. It was a pretty decent size arrest. I don't know, half a pound of meth, a couple loaded firearms, got me 2 years, right? Got out after that prison term. The day I got out, my buddy came to pick me up from prison. His name is Paul. Rest in peace. He's no longer with us. He picks me up. We leave the prison. We're driving down the street. He said, Dave, reach underneath the seat. I reach underneath the seat, and I pull out this box, if you will. Everything's inside it. I'm getting loaded on the way home. I never go to parole. I never check in. We get home, and there's a party waiting.
Start camera at the bottom of the screen. There you go. So you're in prison for 2 years, your first term.
Yep.
On the way home, you get
We're getting high.
an honorable award ceremony with drugs
Yeah. And Paul Mickelson was his name, and I thought he was a friend at the time, right? Because we were friends before. Anyway, you get it. But any friend wouldn't have had that with him.
No.
Wouldn't have been getting
No.
me high, right?
Yeah.
I never even went to parole. I lasted 59 days, got busted again. Another pretty ugly bust, right? That included a lot of drugs and a couple more loaded firearms, right? And I got a 5-year prison sentence. I got out for 60 days, got busted again, got a 6-year prison sentence. Stayed out for 4 months, got busted again, got a 10-year prison sentence. So it was a 2-year term, a 5-year term, a 6-year term, and a 10-year term. Now, I didn't do all of that, but I've been sentenced to 23 years of prison time and did roughly 15 of those years.
Wow.
So, a big chunk of my adult life was spent going in and out of jail and prison. But what happened was, after that fourth prison term, right, I get out of prison, right back to the same behavior, right back to the same lifestyle.
So you're a huge proponent of changing behavior and lifestyle. And I hear you say a lot. And if you guys know who Dave Durocher is, we work with him all the time. So I get to hear Dave's speech over and over, and it's changed my life. You talk about behavior change. You can remove the drugs out of somebody for 6 months in a jail cell, but if their behavior hasn't changed. What was your behavior like in prison? So you're in and out of prison. I've watched your one awesomely put together documentary where that kid portrays you much better looking than you, I must say.
Aren't most?
Just kidding. But
That's not saying much.
in there, you said you wanted to be that guy. You're sitting in that chair, the light shining and all cool. You wanted to be the shot caller. You wanted to be the big boy of the yard. Yeah. What did that look like? Because let me hit it with another question too, because when I was a meth addict, a silver-tongued devil meth addict, right? I could talk my way into and out of anything I wanted. I bailed myself out of jail with my buddy's check who was deployed through a Bell's bondsman. And that Bell's bondsman was so mad because it was his employee that did it, because they don't take checks, cash only, that he chased me down like an easily. And one time he caught me on the phone. He's like, you twitch and move, you give me a reason to shoot you, I'm going to shoot you. So that type of energy and the people we took with us, we're leaders, right? We gather crowds. We know how to motivate. We know how to get people to move and adjust. But we're using it for that evil, right? And I imagine I could see you in prison with this same energy, the same ability to lead. Is that what did it look like in there?
Yeah, when I first went to prison, I didn't know what it was to be a shot caller on the yard. My first term, that wasn't it. But my first term, I started getting in some fights. And, when you're incarcerated, that's called having heart. Now that I look back on it, what a coward I was, right? But on the inside, that meant something. So I started getting some ink on the inside, right? And some of the ink that I got, and I'm completely covered from the wrist, sleeves all the way down to the belly. And I've got some political tattoos. And in order to get the political tattoos, right, you have to put work in. Front line of the riot, going up in people's cells, cutting people, stabbing, whatever that looked like in there, right? So in order to get that stuff, I had to put some work in. And in my second prison term, I really started putting some work in and started making a name for myself on the yard. And here's the sick part. I call it hedonistic adaptation. I started to be okay with being in prison. When I would go back to prison or go from yard to yard, Dave Durocher's here, they'd shoot me over soups, coffee, whatever I needed. I felt like I was important in there. How in the hell can you be important in jail and prison? But I was drinking my own Kool-Aid, and the more work I'd put in, the more name I'd make for myself. Here's how I define it. There's reputation, there's character. What was I building on the inside?
Reputation.
How was I doing that?
Through manipulation, violence.
By doing the wrong thing.
Doing the wrong thing.
I had a reputation built on doing the wrong thing. I didn't have an iota. Keys to the yard, and I'm in charge of all the white guys on the yard. So it just gave me the opportunity to continue to do that kind of stuff, to continue to make a name for myself. And I started to think, LT, and I started to get to a point where I said to myself, I'm going to spend the rest of my life in prison. This is where I belong. This is where I feel at home. So I'd parole, I'd go back, I'd get to Wasco, I'd get to the reception yard, and I'd be there, and they'd start shooting me all the things that I need because I just got off the bus, and I started to feel like I was about something. And term after term after term, more work, more work, more work, more ink, and just making a name for myself on the inside. And I literally started to believe that's where I belonged.
So you enjoyed it. Like,
I did.
Look how cool I am. I walk into the yard, you guys bow down and send me gifts. I'm Dave Durocher.
Man, what a lie it was.
What an egotistical, like, what'd you call it? Hedonistic, what?
Hedonistic adaptation.
Adaptation to hedonism.
Right. Just
Wow.
becoming okay at the bottom.
Sure.
Literally just accepting.
That's where you
fact.
found your joy.
That's where I felt like I had respect. That's where I felt like people looked up to me. I'm in jail. I'm in prison. How could you look up to somebody in there?
Right.
Right. But that's how bad it got. And it's really hard to articulate how I felt at that time. Right. It's just the way things had gotten. Right. So that's why every time I got out of jail and prison, I didn't want to get busted again, but I wanted to go back to the same lifestyle.
Yeah.
I wanted to deal dope. I wanted to be that guy, have a bag full of drugs and, attaché case full of cash, loaded firearms. It came with all the power, all the money. It just, all the women. It came with all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? That's the lifestyle became the intoxicant.
Addicted
Literally.
to adrenaline. Plus, yeah, lifestyle. So you're in there, you got a 20-year sentence over your head. You don't want nobody wants to be locked up, but you've accepted the fact that when you get locked up, you're the man, and that feels good. So if you get locked up, you're all right with it to some extent. You get out this last time, and this is the story where we start talking about you going to Delancey Street, right? You're begging this judge.
Yeah.
What changed in your heart to beg the judge? Because I think your first change is when you wrote that letter and pled guilty to all your charges, right? What gave you that heart change?
To preface that, after that 10-year prison sentence, I lasted 4 months, and I was in Huntington Beach, California, weighing up some drugs, and I was upstairs and, looking out that window, and I've told you the story before, and there's a helicopter up there, and usually helicopters are flying just kind of around the city, patrolling the area.
Oh, yeah.
It was just sitting.
Tell everybody how you got caught. I forgot the
Gosh.
cool part of his story here. It's not cool, but
Right.
it's.
But I'm at this house and I'm weighing stuff up and I'm on the cell phone and I'm setting things up and I'm weighing up drugs and I'm an hour goes by, but I'm looking out this window and I've taken some of my colleagues that I work with here at the Other Side Academy back to that house. That was a fascinating experience too, because the same people lived there and they came out wondering who was standing in front of their house, and there I was.
Oh my gosh!
It was the craziest thing. I had Joseph, our chairman of the board, and Tim, our CEO.
Yeah.
And out come the parents of the girl that I was messing around with, and they look at me, and I go, "Hi, don't worry, I come here in peace, right?" It was so cool because it was
How
their
do you
daughter.
get in the house?
It was their daughter.
Yeah.
That told on me, right? That set the whole thing up. So as I'm talking to the parents, I say, "So is Tracy here? Does Tracy still live here?" "Oh no, Tracy doesn't live here anymore. She hasn't lived here in years. She's doing really good." Front door opens up. Out comes Tracy. She comes bebopping down the. She's coming. She just comes bebopping down the sidewalk, and she's talking to her mom. She goes, "She looks." I go, "Hi, Tracy," and she had that like
I'm
deer
dead.
in the headlight,
Yeah.
ghost.
You're a piece of crap.
I said, Tracy,
Were.
don't even worry.
Yeah.
I've just come back to this location because this is where you saved my life.
Oh, wow.
That is what I said to her, right? And we embraced, and I said, we're not even going to get into it. We're here on we're all in hot pursuit. And I had told everybody that I knew that if I ever got red lighted again or ever got, uh, 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 the sirens were ever on me again, I wasn't going to stop. I'm not going back to prison for the rest of my life. I already knew 2-year term, 5-year term, 6-year. I knew when I got busted again, I'm going to get washed up.
So, go ahead. So, okay. So this girl that you went and saw afterwards. So you go back to the location, but the location, rewind in time.
Right.
And dope. You're getting ready to do your thing, but you hear this helicopter in the distance.
It's just way. I just happened to see it out the window. It's just way up there, sitting there. Well, it was watching the house.
Yeah.
It was waiting for me to leave, so that it could tell the cops that were parked everywhere he's leaving.
Did you have an inclination like that? Was for me.
My gut flipped.
Yeah.
But I'm in this house. I've been coming to Tracy's house for quite some time. I've never been with her.
Yeah.
But why is it just sitting there? That's what went on in my head. But when I got ready to leave, I didn't think anything of it, right? But then I remember her telling me to leave the weapon, leave the weapon, leave the weapon. And it didn't dawn on me. I thought she was just looking out for me, right? It's just Tracy.
Yeah.
I can always come here. I can do my laundry. I can take a shower. I can eat. I can make my calls. I can do what I need to do, and then I can leave. But something it did. It flipped my gut. But I didn't believe that that's what was really happening. That's what happened. I leave. The cops were ever. I took them on a high-speed chase. And it's still to this day one of the craziest things I've ever been through. That helicopter came all the way down, was shining its spotlight in the car. It was like 8:30 at night. The cacophony of sound between the sirens, the commands to pull over, that spotlight shining into that vehicle, it was really crazy. Now, I've got wanton disregard for public safety. I'm going up on sidewalks. I'm going through red lights. I'm pushing cars out of the way. I'm trying to get to a bridge in Huntington Beach to throw the drugs and everything out the window, over the bridge into the water. They've got to go find it. If they find it, they got to prove that's what I threw. That was my theory, right? But my mind is just reeling as the cops are chasing and all the lights. It was just a crazy time. I get to the corner of Magnolia and Atlantic, right? I'm getting ready to make a left-hand turn. And as I approach that intersection, the cops are parked there at the intersection, right? So I see that this is probably going to end real bad. Do I stop and let them arrest me, or do I push those cars out of the way, use my car as a battering ram, make the left-hand turn? And I opted for B, right, using my car basically as a battering ram. And I knew that they're probably going to shoot me, or at least I hoped they were going to. It isn't that I wanted to die, LT. It's that I no longer wanted to live. I knew when I got busted I was going back to prison forever. So I pushed those cars out of the way. I made the left-hand turn. Cops did the pit maneuver, pursuit intervention technique, rammed my back, the back of the vehicle, spun me out up on an embankment, pulled me out of that car at gunpoint, gave me one of the worst beatings I've ever had in my entire adult life. The last thing I remember hearing was, stop, we're going to kill him. It's a strip mall where that car ended up, so people were watching. They had to stop.
Yeah.
I remember when I got put in the back of that police car and I was coming to, right, and just getting my bearings as to what just happened. I remember looking out the window and I saw this short, bald man in a suit. That's just what I remember. Now I'm in court. Guess who my DA is? That's him.
He was on the scene?
Jim Mendelson. They used to call him the Bulldog. He was there for the entire arrest to make sure everything went down right. They wanted me off the streets. As well they should have.
Oh, okay.
But I will never forget, he was there for I don't know what car he was in, but Jim Mendelson was there for the entire arrest to make
We're
sure.
We're chasing Dave Durocher all on my way.
Right,
like,
to make
me go
sure
with
I don't
you.
have a way out, that there's no way, right?
Yep.
But I remember looking out and seeing some guy. I didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
Not till I got to court.
Mm-hmm.
And then it dawned on me who he was.
Oh, they wanted
Anyway,
gone.
and then when I read the police report, everything's in that police what's called the discovery. But anyway, I go to jail and I go to court, and my first deal was 29 years.
Dang.
So it was sobering. It was scary. right? This is real time now, right? I'm not coming home for a long time.
How old are you at this time? Early 20s?
No, I'm late 30s, 38. I think.
Oh, wow. So you'd still be in, like,
Oh, I'd
for a
still be
while.
in now, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Because you're now, what, 51?
57.
57?
I'd probably be coming home soon if I didn't pick up any time, and I guarantee I would have. But we can get into that here shortly. But where was I at? Oh, yeah, I was looking at 29 years. Fought my case for a while. Some of the ancillary charges had fallen off, right? It came down to 22 years, right? And Judge Pacheco at that time was very, very clear. Mr. Durocher, you're getting 22 years, whether you take a deal or whether you go to trial. They're still trying to put pieces of it together, right? I'm not sure exactly what's going on. I'm just fighting my case in the county jail. But I want to stay in the county jail because I get visits every weekend from my girls, right? I get canteen. I can use the phone every day. I can go to the day room. I'm playing the game, right? But I'm trying to get them to give me something manageable like 15. 2-year term, 5-year term, 6-year term, 10-year term. In my head, if I can get a 15-year deal, I sign, I go off. Right?
What?
Thank God that the judge never allowed me he never came off as 22 years. So I wrote a place called Delancey Street. Delancey Street's been around since 1971. It's widely known as was known as the gold standard in this country for many years as it relates to TCs, therapeutic communities. It's a minimum 2 years long. It's the only place that a judge would send somebody like me, right? Because they're not going to send me to a 30, 60, 90-day model. So I wrote Delancey Street a letter. They interviewed me. They accepted me. And the judge said no. And he couldn't have been any clearer. Mr. Durocher, you are not going to Delancey Street. You're getting 22 years. You are not Delancey Street material. Get out of my courtroom. At this point now I'm scared. And for the first time, really, I really was scared. I knew when I went back on this 22-year sentence, I'm going to go to a 4-yard, right? With lifers, again, because my 10-year sentence was like that. They don't care. They've got nothing to lose. In California, I refer to California prisons as high school with knives. I really didn't want to go back and get involved in that again. It's just an ugly way to live, but I'm on my way back. So when the judge said no, I decided to write him a letter. And I got yellow pad of paper, and I wasn't busy in my cell at night. So I wrote him 4 pages, and I told him my life story. And I said, Your Honor, I've already been to prison 4 times. It didn't work. Not that it's designed to. This is not your fault. I said, if you send me to Delancey Street, and 2 things will happen. Either I'll split and get kicked out, or you can lock me up for the rest of my life, or the next time you see me, it's because I'm coming back to say thank you. And I told him my whole story, and I pled guilty to all my charges. I said, Your Honor, I am going to plead guilty right now on paper to all of my charges. I knew internally I was taking a chance because he didn't have to send me. Here I am writing it. 6 weeks later, I went to court. And I don't know if you remember what a phone booth looks like.
Oh, yeah.
Small metal cage, right? But even smaller. Ankle irons, waist irons, and handcuffs. And I'm sitting in this metal cage. And the judge comes out, takes a seat on the bench, and he says, Mr. Durocher, against my better judgment, I'm going to give you the opportunity of a lifetime. I'm going to allow you to go to Delancey Street. You're going to plead guilty to all of your charges in my courtroom. You're signing a deal today for 22 years. I will suspend that sentence. When you get kicked out or when you split, I've got you for the rest of your life. Get out of my courtroom.
Oh.
And he let me go to Delancey Street. Now, Delancey Street is 2 years long. I stayed in that program for 8.5 years.
Wow.
Why? Because I could.
Mm.
That's the difference between a treatment facility or any other organization that gives you a prescribed day that you're done. When you do that, you basically sign our death warrant. When you get someplace and it's 30, 60, or 90 days long, and on that 30, 60, or 90th day you have to leave, nobody's ready that day. They're leaving because they have to. At Delancey Street or at the Other Side Academy, there's a minimum requirement to go, but you can stay as long as you need to. So I stayed for 8.5 years in Delancey Street. The first 2 years to beat a 22-year prison sentence, and the next 6.5 because I fell in love with the process.
Mm.
And for the first time in my life, I fell in love with me.
Really?
And what I mean by that is I didn't look in the mirror and say, you know, hey, Brad Pitt, I love you, right? or LT, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What I meant by that is I started to feel good about who I was becoming.
Yeah.
I started to feel good about what my capabilities were in Delancey Street and how I'd found a way to help other people get from where I was to where I'd gotten, that I had influence that could be used for good. They called me Dinner Date Dave in Delancey Street, right? Don't laugh.
I thought I was the only one that called you that.
Dinner Date Dave.
Yeah.
Because in Delancey Street, it was so big, there was 250 people, and they served dinner in 2 different shifts. And once you were no longer a on maintenance, then I could sit down at dinner with a younger student and coach, influence, and mentor them. So every morning before I'd go to work, whatever my job was in Delancey Street, I'd pick shift 1 or shift 2, and I'd eat with one of the younger students Monday through Friday. I fell in love with helping people. Dinner date, Dave.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. So a lot of people that watch and listen, a lot of people that follow your guys' stream and know you went through what they've gone through. Yeah. And a lot, and worse than a lot of them. But there's that moment, right, in our lives, this line in our lives. You're looking at 22 years. You're rolling dice in front of this judge pleading guilty to all these charges because he could have just said, thanks for saying guilty.
Yep.
Got you, right? So that's awesome. But then your behavior still has to change after that. Yeah. You know, you wanted to escape because it seems like, you know, as humans, we're like water. We're gonna kind of take the easy way out. And then when the pain of going to treatment is less than the pain of what's actually going to be the consequence,
staying the same.
Yeah, the pain of treatment is a little less than that. You'll finally go there because a lot of people won't use until it shifts like that. How do you, like, what do you say to people that are in the same situation that you were at that moment, and the moment that I was at a couple times in my life, to where it was just like, this is too much? But because we can always go in there for that first week or two till the motivation's gone or the sadness and the shame kind of starts to wear off a little bit. How do you, what keeps you, how did you get to where you finally did like yourself? And what kept you going? Was it the jail sentence over your head primarily?
Make no mistake about it, LT. No mistake. I did not write Delancey Street to change. I wrote Delancey Street to change my address. I knew it was the only place that existed that could get me out of the jail and into a treatment facility, or, you know, there was Delancey Street.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what change looked like. I had no idea what it looked like. I just knew it was my only shot, and they let me go. But once I got there, Delancey Street did their job. My peers and people that got there before me put their hand in my belt loop, grabbed me, held on to me. I would have left 1,000 times from Sunday inside that first year if I didn't have a 22-year prison sentence over my head.
Wow.
That suspended sentence anchored me there. Without that sentence, I wouldn't be here today.
Wow. Bye, Seth. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah. So your behavior's changing because you're staying there because you don't want to go to prison. But then your behavior starts to change. You start falling in love with yourself. Yeah. You start loving, helping people. And I forgot the question I was going to ask you. Oh, that's why we look around at the system of the 30, 60, 90 days, like you were saying, right? And how do we get change? Because we were asking questions to you earlier about we're creating drug addicts in this country. Not only are we creating them, when they're in trouble, then they get help. They got 30, 60, 90 days if they have the money and insurance to actually go through that 30, 60, 90-day change. Long-term programs and therapeutic communities, the more that I research and study, are the most efficacious. I mean, I know there's a path to recovery, and there's a lot of stuff out there that does help people. We can't deny it. I've seen people get saved and help. But how do we change that? Like, if we all out there know this, what do we do?
You know, here's how I see it. So, if Dave Durocher, at the heat of my addiction, if you just take me and lock me up in a jail cell for a year by myself, I am in isolation. I have no contact with anybody. They come and they serve me food through the slot of the door. That's it. That's the extent of my interaction with people. So I'm not in contact with anybody. During that year that I'm in there, what am I?
Clean.
I'm clean and sober.
Yeah.
Can I say shit? Who gives a shit?
Yeah, who cares?
Getting people clean and sober, and I know this pushes back against a lot of people, right? But for me, getting me clean and sober wasn't the answer. I have never, in all of my years, in 45 years in this line of work, or, you know, being a drug addict all the way to here,
sure,
met a drug addict that wasn't a liar, wasn't a cheater, wasn't a thief, wasn't a manipulator, and so many other things. If we don't change those behaviors, we'll return back to drugs 100% of the time. If drug addicts who are listening to this now, who have been clean and then dirty, then clean and then dirty, then clean and then dirty, then clean, should I go on?
Yeah.
You get it, right?
Yeah.
Clean and then dirty, clean and dirty. If you look at the pattern, it's because the behaviors haven't changed, right? You're still behaving the same way. You're still lying, still manipulating. Even alcoholics. Every alcoholic has family members that are begging them to quit on their knees. And an alcoholic has to lie to whoever he's with to go down to the liquor store to get the milk when he's actually getting the vodka. Bring the bottle back, hide it in the kitchen, go in, deliver the milk. When they're not looking, go back out in the garage, take a drink of that vodka, right? We're constantly lying and constantly manipulating. Even alcoholics, it's the same thing.
Yes.
If you don't change the behaviors, you'll return back to the chemicals every single time, right? And besides, who wants a clean and sober person who's still a liar, cheater, thief, and a manipulator?
No.
You might as well get high because it would suck to be that person.
Yeah.
So you have to learn to tell the truth. What Delancey Street did is it put me in an environment where people called me on my behaviors. And when I first got there, I brought me with me. Even worse, I brought me with all the prison politics still rattling around in my head and all the lies that I told myself. So when I got to Delancey Street, I was a liar, a thief, a manipulator. I was violent. I was angry. I didn't even really realize it. I was pissed. I was angry. I didn't even know what I was angry about. And what I learned there was what's more grievous, the consequences of anger or the causes of it, right? I made my life so much worse because of the consequences of being angry and the decisions I would make. It's crazy how it all played out. But my peers called me on my behaviors. And what they did is they told me the damn truth. They didn't sugarcoat anything. You want it sugarcoated? Go buy a damn donut. They told me what an egomaniac I was, what an absolute tyrant I was, what a parasite in the community. They told me the truth about myself. And so many people today, probably a lot of people listening to this right now are going, oh my God, you can't do that. That's shaming. Stop it.
Yes.
I was a drug addict and a drug dealer and a gun runner. I kicked down the street. They're all in their 30s now for other people to raise. You don't think I should feel a little shame for the choices I made in my life? You wonder why the problem's getting worse. You can't say that. That's going to hurt their feelings. Do you think I cared about anybody's feelings while I was out there dealing dope to parents who were bringing the dope home, dropping it for their kids to find, driving away with a carload of drugs while they were under the influence? Did I care about people's feelings there? Running around with loaded firearms, taking the police on a high-speed chase, causing people to be in an accident. Anybody could have died. Did I care about people's feelings? We're so deathly afraid to tell people the truth out of hurting their feelings. How many times do I have to tell people, if you want to help them, tell them the truth.
Yes.
Tell them the damn truth. Otherwise, all you're doing is patting my rear end and telling me it's not my fault. I have a disease. Oh, Dave, it's okay. A relapse is part of recovery. You just signed my death warrant.
Yep. In the Proverbs, it says that wounds from a friend are better than kisses from the enemy.
Good gosh, absolutely.
You know, a friend that's going to tell you the
Absolutely.
truth. That's who your real friends are.
Yes.
The ones that tell you the truth. The ones that lie to you, they're self-seeking and they don't care about you either. I think we need to get back to that. We need to get away from this. I'm afraid to hurt their feelings. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world of recovery. We can't say certain words. We can't say recovering addict. We can't say
Why?
drug abuser. We have to say
Why?
drug misuser.
Why?
Exactly.
Why can't we say that? I was a drug abuser. I tore at the fabric of our community. I hurt people. I risked their lives. I did violent things to people.
Yep.
Why can't I be told the truth about who I'd become?
Yep. This we had a guy on our podcast a few weeks ago, and he said that when he got arrested, cop came out, gun loaded, ready to go, and he had a conversation with the cop later about how ready this cop was to do his job, need be. Cop was said 100%. I saw you for who you were, and that kind of resonated and stuck with him because what did the cop see him as?
Yeah.
A good guy that he shouldn't hurt his feelings? No, he saw him as a criminal, a thief, a liar, a destructive to society.
Right.
Somebody who, if he twitched the wrong way, deserved to get shot.
Right. I remember there was I'll tell you a story. I'm right in the heat of it. I'm in between terms, and I'm moving a lot of weight. And a guy calls me. Now, I'll tell you his name. His name is Solano. I don't believe he's with us anymore. And he calls me up, and he wants a few more pounds, right? So I'm driving from Fountain Valley, where I'm living, into Santa Ana Heights, which borders against Costa Mesa. I get off the highway, and I'm making the turn, and I see this car backed into a Carl's Jr., and I thought the guy was taking a drink of something. Come to find out, when I got to that house, so I get to the house, right, in Santa Ana Heights, and I pull my car in the driveway, and I've got Cumbersome by Seven Mary 3 on. It was my favorite song at the time. And I feel like I'm on top of the world.
Yeah.
I'm going to go in, I'm going to bring in all this weight, I'm going to get a bunch of cash, right? And as I get out of the car and I go in the house, I sit down on the couch, And one of the women I was seeing comes and sits on my lap, right? And the next thing I know, I hear all this commotion and glass breaking, and I have no idea what's going on. And they came out of the woodwork. They came in riot gear that I'd never seen before. They came in with weapons I had never seen before, where the clips on the top of the weapons fold down on top, and they've got their face masks on, and the gun is in my mouth. And they said, give us a reason. And I'm like, holy cow. I'm like, which one of you? And I'm thinking, which one of these women told on me, right? Neither one of them knew it was coming. When they knew that I was going to be there, they knocked on the door, the houses all around that house, and the neighbors let them in, waiting for me. There wasn't a cop to be seen, cop car anywhere. They were inside all those houses waiting for me to get there. Anyway, that bus got me 10 years.
Wow.
But I'll never forget that cop pulls me out of the house, takes me outside, and starts asking me questions. And I laughed at him and said some expletives. And he goes, oh, you want to play hardball? I said, I've been playing hardball. Picks me up, swings me around, throws me in the back of the car, and it was all over. But the part I'll never forget is that gun in my mouth, right at it, saying, give us a reason. I will never forget that. But I'll tell you what, I would have had it coming.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem today is that's who I had become. But we don't want to do that anymore. We don't want people to take a look at who they become.
So we talk about, there's more rights now for the criminal than business owners. We look at these crappy San Francisco, Portland, Detroit, we got all the proof there is out there.
Right.
Think about the people that are actually being harmed, right? These cops come in, take you away, and there's a neighbor on every side of that house that slept better that night.
Yes, they can take a sigh of relief.
You know what I mean?
Right.
What about those people?
I know.
Who cares about the drug
here's the
addict's feelings?
When the drug addict criminal becomes a protected class, we will lose our community as we know it.
100%.
When you look at Portland, and whoever's watching this right now, if you're not paying attention, just Google it and look what's going on. We've lost that city completely. We've turned it over to the drug addict criminal. You could, when the Walmarts were open, you could go in with a shopping cart, fill it up, walk out. They can't stop you. When the drug addict criminal becomes the protected class, we will lose our community as we know it. And we've turned the drug addict criminal into the protected class. We've turned it into this disease. And whether it is or whether it isn't is irrelevant.
It's irrelevant.
Do you want some meth right now?
No.
Clay, would you like some heroin?
I'm good.
What did you both just do?
Made a decision.
You made a choice.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it is a damn choice.
Mm-hmm.
I chose the first time I used. Now, granted, I was a kid, but every time I got clean and sober, I chose to use again.
Yep.
And sometimes I might have been clean for a couple years while I was incarcerated. When I chose to use again, I made that decision while I was clean and sober. Ultimately, it's a choice. And every single drug addict listening to this right now that has a pulse knows this. When you're a drug addict, you have two options. Continue to use, ask for help. Every one of us knows help's available. We all do. We choose not to ask.
Yeah.
Ultimately, everything that happens in our life is a choice. I knew I could go to Delancey Street in between those prison terms. I never walked in their front door and took a seat on their bench. I had to be looking at a lengthy prison sentence. I always knew I could go to a treatment facility. I never went to a treatment facility.
You knew about Delancey Street before?
I wrote Delancey Street before my 10-year prison sentence. They came and interviewed me. They did not accept me.
Oh, wow.
Let me tell you, I don't tell that part of the story very often.
Let's hear it.
I wrote them. They interviewed me. Here's what happened. In that interview, all I talked about was the drugs, the guns, the women, the chaos, the mayhem, who I thought I was. That interviewer did not accept me. In not accepting me, I went and did my 10-year prison sentence. In not accepting me, it saved my life. I was nowhere near ready to change. Fast forward after that 10-year sentence, wrote Delancey Street again. This time, I was begging for help. In that first interview, I never even asked. Now I'm begging for help, and at the end of that interview, I'm standing up in the interview booth, and I'm knocking on the glass with my handcuffs with a tear running down my face, begging that interviewer to give me a shot. He accepted me. I never knew why they didn't accept me the first time or why they accepted me the second time until I became an interviewer. Then I realized it. In that first interview, LT, I never even asked for help. All I did was tell that interviewer who I thought I was at that moment in time.
Wow.
Thank goodness they didn't accept me. Had they accepted me, I would have got out of jail. I wouldn't be here right now.
Nope.
I would have went on the run because I was not writing for the right reasons, right? People don't understand the complexity of drug addiction and the decision-making process. They just don't. And most people making decisions for us don't have a clue who the hell we are. They just don't get it. Most people think that, oh, the poor drug addict, they're sitting in mommy and daddy's basement, and God dropped some drugs on the coffee table, and he's going to snort a little line. Oh, the poor drug addict, it's not his fault. That's what they think.
Oh, yeah.
They don't realize just what we're doing out there.
No.
They don't realize
In the shadows.
the people that I hurt with baseballs,
Mm-hmm.
the people that I stuffed in trunks of cars,
Mm-hmm.
the guns that where the hammer was cocked back. Just, a nanosecond away from ending theirs or possibly mine. They don't realize the arc of criminality. If anybody has ever met a bank robber, that was not the first crime they ever committed.
Oh, no.
You will never meet a bank robber whose first crime was robbing a bank.
Sure.
Stole a Dremel at Walmart, stole a chainsaw at Lowe's, stole a bag of Hilti tools from some other hardware store, robbed a liquor store, stole someone's car. 3 years later, hit the bank.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't stop it down here, we'll all get there.
Yep.
I didn't start off selling 5 pounds of meth a day. I started off selling a 16th a day.
Mm-hmm.
If you nab it then, right? And they tried, but it just got worse and worse. People don't understand what we're capable of doing.
Yeah.
And they want to make excuses. Well, it's not their fault. They have trauma. I get it. I did too. Told you my story.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I had trauma at home, and that's probably what led me down that path. But when I became an adult, I knew the difference between right and wrong. I chose wrong.
Yep.
We all know the difference, and we all have that same opportunity to choose right or wrong. I will digress. Is the problem in our communities getting better or worse?
It's getting worse.
It's getting worse because we do not want to hold people accountable.
Yep.
We live in a culture now that is so liberal. Oh, it's not their fault. Jails traumatize people. You don't think the criminal drug addict is traumatizing people? Here's what you do. Here's how you help me. Here's how you help you. Here's how you help every drug addict. Mr. Drug Addict, it's unfortunate the way you're living your life. You're causing a lot of harm. You are hurting yourself and you are hurting other people. Here's what we're willing to do. You go to this program or you go to jail.
Yeah.
What's your answer?
Yeah.
If I don't choose program, I don't deserve to be on the street committing crimes.
Yeah.
End of conversation. The problem's getting worse because we're not doing that. And I'm here to tell you, and all of you can think I'm crazy. That's fine. That's a whole nother conversation. We can have another podcast.
Yeah.
Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. But I'll tell you this. If we do not hold people accountable and give them the option, treatment or jail, the problem's going to get 1,000 times worse in the 10 years.
Yep.
And millions of people are going to die because fentanyl has changed the game. We either do for people what they're incapable of doing for themselves, or we're going to sign their death warrants, or we're going to bury them.
Yep. I agree with that 100%. So going back to, like, they don't know who we are, the people that are making these laws and stuff. I would love to be able to get them to hear what we've done. Like, two of the most regrettable things I've done in my life, as far as like in my drug use, is one was the scream of the lady that we robbed at a gas station at gunpoint. Her scream, the way it sounded, still sticks in my head.
Yeah.
Two, sitting in a room smoking meth and passing the pipe to a 8-month pregnant lady.
Yeah.
Like, that happened. She was sitting right next to me. I passed it to her, and I just remember the aura, the vibe, whatever you want to call it, of the room was just me. It was off because back here, we can smoke drugs, and there's something back here that says this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and it gets quieter and quieter the longer we do it. But that day it got loud again in everybody's head, and the conversation was wish-washy through justifications of meth and not that bad and just and that's one that just still haunts me to this day. And I wish that people that make the laws understand that that's what we're doing. We're not just, like you said, God didn't just deliver us a little bit of powder that's like sugar.
Right.
Yeah, we actually are committing crimes later on.
Yes.
And just where that drug came from, if you could rewind, okay, that drug went to this car, went to this house, it broke off this brick, it went to this bigger brick that came across the country, where these people are actually trafficking kids and all. It's the bigger picture. As soon as you sniff that line, every dollar has a vote, right? Anything you buy is like you're voting for things. And the same thing for drug addicts. They're voting to keep these things in circulation.
Yeah.
So
It's sickening. And I really think that if we want to help people solve this problem, if we want to even have an impact, we have to be smarter about the way we deal with it. I mentioned earlier, there should be two options. Go to jail. Because, listen, if you're a drug addict, here's the thing. If I'm born, right, if I've got $10 million in the bank, and I'm just sitting comfortably ensconced in my desk in my home smoking some dope, and I don't have to commit any crimes for it, right? Well, then who cares? All I'm hurting is myself. I'm going out to buy the drugs, but really all I'm hurting is myself. I'm not committing any crimes. I've got money in the bank.
Your body, your
so
choice.
all these rock stars and movie stars, you very, very seldom hear them committing crimes. They've got the money to support their habits.
Sure.
There's not a whole lot you can do. What gets me hot under the collar and angry is the vast majority of drug addicts don't have $10 million in the bank. They are committing crimes.
99.9%.
Yes, we are. If you're a drug addict, how are you getting your dope? You're stealing shit for it.
100%.
In 1,000 different ways. You are breaking into people's homes. You're breaking into storage facilities, ransacking their storages. You're getting people's identifications. And this is a big thing right now. And you're creating new identities, and you're opening up bank accounts, and you're bilking people out of millions of dollars. You are going around breaking into cars and stealing. It's just... If you're a drug addict, you're committing crimes to support your habit.
Yep.
If we do not put public safety first, we are missing the mark.
Yes.
Because I am a drug addict, it is not permission to be a criminal.
No.
Period.
Agreed. Back to people like me and you, who are leaders in the community and have our own little programs. And we've been gifted.
Absolutely.
We all each have gifts to be a leader and, an entrepreneur type stuff, to be an executive director. And the same type of attitude and work ethic that got us here was still inside us as we were drug addicts. And like you said about the criminal piece of a drug addict, I remember when I was a meth addict, the schemes. My one cousin who was a drug addict for a long time, I scared him because of the schemes. He's like, dude, you never stop. You never stop scheming. Like, you got to quit. And it scared him sober, actually. He left, he went and quit. But that piece is like morning, noon, night. That's all I was doing. What can I do? Because I get high, I get a rush. I get a rush to commit a crime. Ooh, this one's even more clever. Look what I just did. And the cycle continues because the whole thing becomes a dopamine, adrenaline junkie rush to scare people. Pride, ego, look who I am. Oh, yeah, I'm that guy that just did that. And you got these people that are just as big of perhaps as you looking up to you in that realm. And it's a horrible place to be. But now you're not like that no more. Neither am I. Praise God. You're the executive director of the Other Side Academy. And I think you guys have made a huge splash in Utah. You're still young, right? 8 years now?
Yeah, 8 years.
8 years in the program. 8 years. You came here from Delancey Street, started it, met with Joseph and Tim and some other members, decided to launch it. You were the first one here. You started the moving company. You were on the first moves yourself. So you put your blood, sweat, and tears into this program, and it is growing leaps and bounds. Do you believe that Utah, and the conservative nature of this state has helped blossom that to where a left-wing type of state wouldn't have allowed it to blossom as much? And are we worried about that in the future? Because I'm growing a program that's on the same path as I'm riding coattails here, you know what I mean? And I have a fear of that coming here to where we are the outcasts who hurt feelings, and you can't say that, and oh, that's slave labor, or you can't make people think that, you know what I mean? Does that bother you?
No, it doesn't, because when we talk about slave labor, so let's be honest about something, right? When I was going to jail, who was paying for me?
Taxes, me.
You were paying for me, right?
Well, my mom and dad probably.
Listen, as an adult, when I go to jail, somebody else is going to pay for my food, my medical, and my rent.
Yes.
Every time I got out of prison, I went right back. I was exploiting the taxpayer.
Yeah.
Every time I went to prison, who paid for me? The taxpayer.
Yeah.
I knew what I was doing was wrong. I knew when I got incarcerated, you, Mr. Taxpayer, your tax dollars are going to pay my rent. Do me a favor, pay more in taxes because the food sucks. When I decide to go back to prison, I want to eat better. Okay, thanks. When I'm going to a treatment facility that I can't pay for, it's coming out of Medicaid. Somebody else is paying for it. Why should somebody else pay for my bad decisions? let me give you the equivalent of that. Let's say Clay sitting over there has never drank and never done drugs. And tonight Clay goes out and has a few beers at a restaurant.
Yeah.
And he drives away and he gets in an accident and he destroys somebody's car and he has no insurance. Should I pay for that?
No.
Then why should you pay for me?
Right.
Why should somebody else pay for my treatment? Why should somebody else pay for me when I'm incarcerated?
Agreed.
When you get to the Other Side Academy, we don't take any money from the government. We have social enterprises that generate our revenue. The minute I got to Delancey Street, I became part of the solution, not the problem. I'm responsible for my own recovery. I'm responsible to work on those social enterprises that generate the revenue that helps me and the others that are on their way there and don't even know they're going yet. Why should somebody else support an adult who's making poor choices in their life?
Agreed.
Why?
They shouldn't.
But that's the culture we live in. And to me, to some degree, it is the liberals, right, who believe that, right? It's wrong. It doesn't teach any accountability.
Right.
The reason why TCs, therapeutic communities, do so well is because of that accountability component. That's why any organization that thrives, it'll always, if it's thriving, it'll always have a high accountability component.
I guess my big question is maybe even tipping into conspiracy theory almost, but I don't think so. But Big Pharma is creating, they're creating customers.
Jeez.
They're not creating cures.
Yeah.
Nobody, like even doctors today, they treat symptoms and they prescribe. Like if I have a headache, I take a Tylenol or an aspirin, right? I'm not Tylenol or aspirin deficient in my body. There's another reason why my head hurts. That was the problem, and that's what should be taken care of. But now here's some pills that'll make the pain go away. I think they're going to allow the powers to be recovery communities to make an effect on people until we reach this precipice of where we start ruining their income. Do you think that? You know what? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I do. And here's what I think of this, right? This is fascinating. Let's say I break my leg. I snap my femur, and we take an x-ray of it, and we put it up on that screen. What is it?
A picture
Of what?
your leg
What is it?
broken.
What is it? When you look up there, what does it look like? Broken leg. If I snap my femur and I've got a compound fracture and everybody looks at that x-ray, it's the same thing to everybody.
Yeah.
Now let's go to therapy.
Okay.
You're my therapist.
Yeah.
I can go to you and opine about what I'm going through
Yeah.
and tell you exactly what you want to hear. You're going to diagnose me with PTSD, bipolar, depression. You're going to give me a cocktail of medications. Then I'm going to go over there to this therapist, opine about the same thing. They're going to diagnose me with anxiety, maybe schizophrenia or whatever, something else, and give me a different cocktail of medication. The bottom line is, I know exactly what to tell you to get the drugs I want.
Right.
Unfortunately, for some reason, I do not believe in doctors when it comes to that kind of thing.
Me neither.
Because they have no clue who the hell I am,
Right.
what I'm capable of. I know what to say to get the medication. We are so over-medicating people. Really, someone's feeling, I feel, here, take these. I feel, here, take these. We did an interview the other day at the Other Side Academy. I had a conversation with him yesterday. He came from, where did Kenneth come from? Tennessee. He came from Tennessee. This is what he told me. He said when he got here to detox, the doctor told him, oh, you'll never make it there. I'm going to prescribe you Suboxone for 2 years. The doctor told him, I'm going to prescribe you Suboxone for 2 years. He said, no, you're not. I am going to make it. He's been with us for a week now. He's doing great.
Awesome.
They want to prescribe people Suboxone for 2 years.
That's bullshit. So now you just eliminated a doctor's nice Corvette patient, new Corvette payment for 2 years.
Do you realize, listen, LT, we have people who come to us that went to jail and got on medications. And I'll ask him, so what were you diagnosed with? Nothing. What do they give you? They gave you medication. They have to diagnose you. Dave, they didn't diagnose me with anything. I got to jail and told them I wasn't feeling good and I was feeling depressed, and they gave me some medications. No diagnosis. Some of them said they got to jail and they put them on the same medications they were on 2 years ago when they were in jail. We are over-medicating. I'm not saying people don't require medication, but to the degree that we're giving it to them, we live in this culture where Big Pharma is manufacturing all these drugs. If you think for 1 minute that all the doctors out there that can prescribe these medications are stuck to their computer screens reading about all these medications that are coming out and the effects that they have and knowing exactly what they're diagnosing people with and what they're giving them, you're crazy.
Yeah.
These medications are coming out so fast. And then you have all these salespeople for Big Pharma going around to these doctors' offices selling these new drugs. The doctors have no clue what they are.
Yep.
They graduated from a medical school 10 years ago.
Yep.
No idea. And then there's incentives to sell it.
Yep.
Welcome to Big Pharma. We are creating drug addicts in this country. Now, when I was out there running amok, right? When I was out there running from the law, what was I suffering from? Anxiety.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The minute I got arrested, what was I suffering from? Depression.
Shame, guilt, fear.
When I'm running from the law and I know they're right behind me and they're looking for me all over, that I'm anxious.
Yeah.
When I get arrested, I'm depressed.
Yep.
Do you think medication's going to help me? Believe me, I can go to the therapist in the jail and tell them exactly what I'm going through. They will give me medication to try to make me feel better.
Yep.
We're so damn stuck and trying to make people feel better that we're killing them.
Yep. So I guess that's the message that needs to be preached first, because we're not even close to hitting their pocketbook yet. The Big Pharma, the people that don't want change because they know they make a lot of money off of it.
Absolutely.
And because it goes into the same, if you want to get crazy with it, is, fast food and all that kind of stuff, because it creates unhealthiness, and diabetes is one of the biggest money makers in the world.
Yep.
We're in a big battle here that's going to be hard to fight. We can only save who we can save.
One of the most overprescribed drugs in this country, and this offends people when I say it, I'm going to say it anyway, because I like to tell the truth.
Yeah.
One of the most overprescribed drugs in this country is Adderall.
100%.
We have a shortage of Adderall in the United States of America. A year ago, I was in London, me and a whole group of colleagues, and we were going into some of the prisons that have TCs on the inside, and we were going to other organizations. Adderall in the UK is illegal.
Really?
In the United States, we have a shortage of it. Who's doing it right? Them
UK.
or us? Now, everybody's taking Adderall right now. Is going, oh, this guy's crazy. He doesn't know me. I need this.
No, you don't.
Adderall is meth made in a laboratory by Big Pharma.
Do you know what the difference between meth and Adderall is?
It's like one chemical, one molecule off.
It's Coke versus Pepsi.
Yeah, there you go. It's off, but just a hair.
Yeah.
I have seen there's a shortage. I can go. I promise, and I want somebody to one day challenge me on this. I can go to a doctor tomorrow and be on Adderall the same day.
I could put all my kids on it tomorrow.
Yes.
Immediately. I've actually had a teacher try to shove it down my throat for my oldest boy when he was young.
We are you hear me saying it all the time. It's one of my catchphrases. We're creating drug addicts in this country.
100%.
And then we're pretending like we give a shit about what's happening.
Yep.
We're killing this country, even in the states where we're legalizing marijuana. Let me tell you, can I tell you my theory on that?
Yeah.
So you look at these cities like Portland, we've lost it. San Francisco, California, we've lost the state. Los Angeles, right? Colorado, Kensington, where we've legalized pot.
Yep.
Now, you're going to get a lot of people, oh, I need pot. It helps with my pain. It helps with anxiety. Okay, cool. Maybe it does. That's the story you tell yourself, and that's cool.
Yeah.
Whatever works for you.
Yep.
But now let's legalize pot across the country. Now you, at the young age of 40, right, you've never done drugs before. You decide tonight to smoke pot for the first time. At age 40, you smoke your first joint. I guarantee you have the intellectual capacity and the emotional maturity to understand the decision you just made. Mm-hmm. And you will not be using heroin a year from now.
Sure.
However, your 15-year-old is coming home from school now, walks in the house. What does he smell?
Weed.
Who's he stealing it from 6 months from now?
Me.
Now he starts to steal weed from his dad, and so many people who are listening to this right now are going, that's what I did, that's what I did, that's what I did.
That's what I did.
There you go. So you start stealing weed from dad at 15.
Yep.
If you're stealing weed from dad, who are you hanging out with? Other kids smoking weed.
Weed from dad.
Some of them aren't just smoking weed. But the 15-year-old does not have the emotional maturity or the intellectual capacity
to understand the decision they're making.
Nope.
Pot at 15 is a gateway drug.
100%.
It was for me. It was for you.
Yep.
So we're introducing it to kids in this country. And again, sitting back going, oh my God, we have drug problems. What are we going to do? We're the cause of it.
Yes.
Keep legalizing it. Here's the fascinating thing. We're legalizing it in this country, right? And all the cities where we've legalized it, those cities are going down the, I mean, just look at what's happening in
Can't
these
even drive
cities.
down the street anymore.
Here, let's look at Salt Lake City.
Mm-hmm.
You can drive down State Street. You can pull into a CBD store that also sells Kratom. There's no medical benefits of Kratom. Heroin addicts and people who smoke fentanyl get off those two drugs. Their gateway drug back to it is Kratom.
Yeah, it is.
There's no medical benefits of Kratom. But inside that same store, I can buy a meth pipe. I can buy a glass pipe
Yep.
and then get arrested for having it.
Jeez.
I can buy a meth pipe legally and then get arrested for having it. Why the hell are we selling it? Tax revenues.
Yep.
Why are we selling Kratom? Tax revenues. Why are we legalizing marijuana? Tax revenues. Again, we're creating the problem. In the United States of America, this country is widely known all over the world as the biggest drug country in the world.
Huge.
We are causing the problem.
Drug connoisseurs of the world.
Look at all the new drugs that are out now.
Yeah.
The spice, this crocodile dope that's causing all the skin to fall off, fentanyl that we're just letting come across the border by the millions daily.
Spice, speaking of that, when it first came out, one of our family members brought it over to the house, and I confiscated it. And I'm LT. I can handle my liquor. I can handle my weed. He doesn't know what he's doing with this, so I take it away and I hang on to it for a minute, and I go out in the garage and smoked it. Just took some big old rips off this crap, thinking I'm some pothead guy that can handle my business, right? And I forgot how to speak English. That stuff was not weed. And I was telling Flea, I can't speak language. I literally, that was not drugs. That was some type of chemical shit to my brain that was not right.
Yeah.
And kids are just, oh, Spice, cute name, We're killing people.
We are killing people.
100%.
We're
we're not. We're on the good side of things.
right. And as I continually, I go up to the Capitol a lot, and I work with a lot of the legislators, and I got a great relationship with law enforcement, and I got to hand it to law enforcement. They've got their hands full.
Yeah.
Poor law enforcement. They're out there trying to arrest everybody for the crimes they're committing, and the courts keep releasing them. Arrest and release, catch and release, catch and release, catch and release. The judges, right? And now we're raising this new culture of people through colleges where it's not their fault. This is substance use disorder. They were born with this problem. There's nothing you can do. You can't incarcerate them. That's not going to solve the problem. People keep telling me, Dave, listen, we can't incarcerate our way out of this problem. I tell them, you know what? You're absolutely right. We can't. But if we don't put public safety first, what are we doing? We don't have any choice anymore. Nothing else is going to work. You either hold people accountable for the choices that they make or give the country away to dope fiends.
How effective do you think your message has been resonating with your work in the Capitol and law enforcement? And
I keep getting called back to talk to them some more.
it's good.
I really believe that the people, when I talk about our legislators, and bless their hearts, right? I think they all mean, they're
Sure.
brilliant people.
A lot of people in these positions would mean well.
But here's how I see it. If you've never been a drug addict, if you've never lived on the street, if you've never been homeless, if you've never been to jail, and if you've never been to prison, what the hell do you know about it?
Zero.
We have so many people making decisions for this population that are too far away from the consequences of those decisions to understand the error of their ways. They're going to school, they're getting indoctrinated into something that they believe to be true that couldn't be farther from the truth, and then trying to implement those things.
Amen.
We need more people.
M to the Rock says, great show. What's up, brother? Geesh, welcome. Go ahead, finish that thought.
We need more people with lived experience making decisions for us.
Yeah.
We need more people with lived experience helping pass legislation. We need more people with lived experience helping to redesign the prison system. We need more people with lived experience making decisions for those going through this problem.
Yeah, agreed.
The problem with academics are you cannot teach them in a book how to help us.
No.
That's like me being a doctor. You're a mother. I give delivery of the baby. I take the baby. I cut the umbilical cord. I give the baby its first breath. If I try to tell you what it's like to give birth, I should be institutionalized. I don't know what it's like for you.
Yeah.
I only know what it's like for me.
Yep.
And if you, another way to put it is, if you want to be a brain surgeon, who's going to teach you how to do it?
Other brain surgeons.
If you want to be a mechanic, who's going to teach you how to do it?
A good mechanic.
If you want to learn to hit the 100-mile-an-hour fastball in the batter's box, who's going to teach you how to do it?
A hitting coach.
But in this field, you send someone to college, they get a degree in social work, and they think they're going to be able to help me. No lived experience. And in my opinion, there's nothing worse than an expert with no experience.
Yeah, I agree.
We have educated people that are book smart, that don't have a clue, again, who we are, how we think, what we're going through. 9 times out of 10, the male is going to be going to this therapist, and in 2 or 3 weeks, will be sleeping with her. Or vice versa.
Or creeping her out, yeah.
Yes.
I get, yeah.
My goodness.
I know exactly.
It's the wrong approach.
Yep. Oh, man. As we bring this plane in for a landing, you're the executive director of the Other Side Academy located here in Salt Lake City. There's also a location in Denver. Is there any plans for future locations before we tell other people what the Other Side Academy is about?
Yeah, we're right now.
Hey,
we're
pull up M to the Rock's comment real quick, babe. M to the Rock right there. He's a guy out of Texas. He says, when I was incarcerated, I realized that God was all I had because he was all I needed the whole time. Humility. Thanks, brother. Is there plans for other locations?
Yeah, we're currently working with about a half dozen other cities around the country, helping them either transition from the current model that they've been using into a TC, or actually helping them start a TC. We really like to put a bench. We like to refer to it as a bench in every city that needs one. But it's difficult to replicate this model because the person who goes to school can't run it. The counselor can't run it. You wouldn't have any idea how to manage a house full of 125 felons and drug addicts and all the it's hard.
Babies.
It's hard to manage. Yeah, it's hard to manage this population.
Yeah.
You have to have been a drug addict, lived on the street, been to jail, been to prison, been through a TC, been in some leadership roles to be able to manage that. So it's hard to replicate because the leadership is the most difficult thing to find. But we are helping a lot of other organizations across the country transition from what they're currently doing.
What about the brand, the Other Side Academy? You looking to launch that brand again somewhere?
We probably will. I would think that in the next 5 years, we'll probably start Site 3 someplace.
Awesome. So you got Salt Lake, Denver, third site coming possibly 5 years from now, which is, I think every city needs one.
Yeah.
Tell us about the Other Side Academy in Salt Lake, how we can find you, who you are, how long it is, and the benefits of somebody staying the 4-year magic number.
The Other Side Academy is located at 667 East 100 South in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's a minimum 30-month requirement, minimum 30-month. It's residential. It's completely free. If you come to us and walk through our front door and take a seat on the bench and we interview you, you start right then. You get nothing. If you write us a letter from the county jail and we interview you and you get a letter of acceptance, then the judge can sentence you to us in lieu of a very lengthy prison sentence, like my own, 22-year sentence. They can sentence you there. Those are the 2 ways you can find us. If you're out of the state and somewhere in the country, call us. We will interview you. The beauty of the model is it's long. It is structured. It is real. It is honest. We tell you the truth, and you don't have to leave on a particular day, even at day 30, which is 2 years. 2.5 is the minimum stay, but you can stay as long as you need to, because every single drug addict that's ever lived on this planet is ready at a different time than the other one.
Yeah.
Nobody is ready on day 30, day 60, day 90, or day 730. No one's ready on a particular day. People leave programs for one of 2 reasons. They have to, or they can. When you give them the time they need and they can graduate when they know they're ready to reintegrate back into the community as a productive member, you win.
Yep.
That's the key. No government money at all at the Other Side Academy. Nothing. No government money. If the government could solve this problem, it never would have created it. We stay as far away from the government as we can. We do the work ourselves, which means we can do what's best for our students.
I love that. People walk into the program. They sit on a bench, which is the portal, right? They can leave. It's the choices. They can leave anytime they want.
Yep.
The choice is theirs. You take a chance on this person if you accept them. You get them some new clothes. They have food. They got meals. They're instantly trained how to clean, communicate. You're taking a big risk on them, and it's absolutely free. free to people that are walking in. And then you got a whole nother group of people that are standing in front of a judge looking at a prison sentence. And you guys will go, let us take a chance on that guy.
Yep.
Let's give him a chance. You know what that reminds me of? And maybe it's not. It just kind of hit me deep for a second for some reason. But Felice and I had our son hit his head crushed, right? Lincoln's head was crushed in 2017. He's sitting there in a coma. And the doctors come in and they're like, we need to fix his face. His bones and face are broken. You know, his head popped ear to ear. And he's like, we have to fix all the bones. But in order to do that, we have to put a trach and a feeding tube in him. And if we do that, we're sustaining life to this. And so the decision is do you want to sustain life to this? And this is what you may have to take home. And the chance at that point was to have Link still on a table in a room somewhere in our bedroom with the breather and us feeding him through a tube in his belly, right? That was the chance they were taking. So they were like, pull the plug. And then next Monday we come in, the big wigs of doctors are in the room at this time, and they come in and they squeeze him on his trap, and he kind of just gives him, and it took a minute to give him a little flinch, but a little tiny flinch, and he says, let's give this guy a chance. And he gave him a chance, and now Link, you could hardly tell if you didn't know at first meeting him that he has traumatic brain injury. He's blind in one eye, deaf in an ear, you know, and he has a TBI, you know, traumatic brain injury. And you are taking that I don't know why it hit me that way, but you tell a judge, this person could possibly be released out into society, commit a crime, kill somebody. And a worst case scenario, what this person could do, have they walk out that front door, because that'd take time for a cop to catch them. But you're willing to do that for a certain demographic out there. And you don't accept government money. You have the best moving company in Salt Lake City, right? You won the award.
Ran by ex-felons and ex-drug addicts.
Yeah,
It won the Ernst & Young Entrepreneurs of the Year in 2018.
Wow, that's insane.
Ran by people just like us.
That's awesome. The Other Side Academy in Salt Lake City. What's the phone number there? Do you have it memorized?
I have mine memorized. What's the?
801 Say it again.
801-953-0409.
953-0409.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
8576309.
Dave, it's been awesome talking to you. We have to have you come on the show every few months just to give us some updates and catch up. And I want to dive more into your personal life too. I want to know a little more about, like, you know, some of the struggles you went through in prison and some of the struggles you went through in between stuff, and just get to know Dave.
Yeah, happy to share them with you.
Yeah, I'm excited too. So we got I'm
an open book.
Good version of everything you've done from
here's
almost life in prison, man. That's just insane.
Here's how I see it. If what we're doing doesn't seem to be working very well, we have to be willing to break the model.
We've got to.
We have to be willing to innovate. We have to be willing to disrupt the sector. Now, the Other Side Academy is not for everybody.
No.
The 30-day program is not for everybody. We need all of them. We need to work together, right? But this model works so much better than others because of the duration of time. That's the most important piece. But if we're losing our communities, if what we're doing isn't working, we need to disrupt the sector.
Yeah. So we can disrupt and then hold on to people for a long time. One of the things you say that I really like the most, from that last video we edited, at 4 years, the distance between their new life and their old life, there's so much in between. It's those new memories that have just been built, you know?
Here's how I say it. You know, when I got to Delancey Street, could I change in 1 day?
No.
Could I change in 2?
No.
Could I change in 3?
No.
30 days, after 27 years of living the lifestyle, 30 days later, I'm not going to change then either. As soon as I leave Delancey Street after 30 days, I'm going back to my same neighborhood.
It's your habits.
Yes. Now, 8 years later, the more time you put between your old life, right, and your new one, the more of a gap is there, the harder it is to return to.
Yep. Huge.
That's why that time, the dosage effect, is so important. When I left Delancey Street, I had a whole new circle of influence, whole new thought processes, whole new patterns, whole new behaviors. You can't do that in 30, 60, or 90 days. It's impossible. Nobody changes in that short period of time.
Right.
They get clean and sober, but they don't change.
Yep.
You need time. 4 years seems to be the magic number for someone who's in their late 20s, early 30s, or 40s.
I got a theory on that.
Right. Yeah. What is your theory?
That's gone through my head since I've heard you say it for the first time. But every 5 years, we drastically change as a human being, period. You know, if you look at a baby just born to a 5-year-old, they have changed drastically. If you look at a 5-year-old to a 10-year-old, look at how much change. And every 5 years, you can see that in a person. Even a 30 to 35-year-old, you look back at pictures when you're 30, you've changed drastically. And I think that's what it's done. You know, you get these little half decades of change. And I think it takes a half decade to completely change your lifestyle. And that's no matter what. If you're healthy or if you're unhealthy and you got a good job, you live a decent life, but you're unhealthy, just plan on a 5-year journey to where you're going to finally have effective change.
Yeah.
And a lot of people need to grab that. But we are so sold on marketing, instant gratification, 30-day diets, hit this button and win $1 million. Here's the easy book to becoming successful. It's not like that. Life is a lie, or they're portraying a lie.
Yep.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to, before we sign off, anything else you guys want to talk about? Good. Anything else?
That's it, LT.
Awesome.
I just want people to know that we're here.
Yeah.
We're here to help, and what we do works.
Yep. And if you guys ever want to get a hold of the Other Side Academy and this wasn't clear enough for you, it's in the comments and description below, or just hit me a message and I will make sure I get you in contact with somebody immediately. If you have somebody in mind, like they need the Other Side Academy, let's connect. We will figure it out. We will get you the help that you need, the person that you need to talk to get the interview they need. They can do it right over the phone. It doesn't matter what state you're in. We'll figure it out, right?
Absolutely.
Does that sound about right?
Yep.
All right, David, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
You want to do the serenity prayer? We kind of do the serenity prayer here. So God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Till next time, do not put yourself in a high-risk situation. Stay strong, work your programs, and remember, we recover better together.